good evening. Welcome to our second episode of They Call Me Coach. This is a live stream, so everything that goes right and goes wrong, we just deal with it as it happens. This evening, we're talking to Coach Curtis Xavier, who's currently based in Birmingham. Hi, Coach.
Hi, everybody. How you doing? Hi, Chris. Good to see you.
And can you give me a shortish kind of summary of, can we start with your playing career? Like, how did you get involved in the game of basketball?
Oh, Nottingham School, St. Bernadette's, completely nuts on basketball. Okay, so you walk through the door at what's now year 7, and that's the first sport you're going to get into. And at that time in Nottingham, every secondary school had a basketball team every single year through the school. And looks like everybody else at that time, you went from your school side to your what was then city boys. So to make a county side, you had to make a regional city team, and then a city team, and then a regional county team to make the county team. So a lot different than it is now. Made the England under 15 teams, 17s, 19s, all the way through to the senior men with Dave Titmus, would have been my coach had I not retired. Played National League, won National League with Nottingham, with Gateshead. From Nottingham to Liverpool, BBL at 17, 18. But my career took me all across the world as a player, as you can imagine, playing internationally. But probably the single biggest influence was spending summers in New York with a guy called Michael Pyatt, who was then at Liverpool, went on to play for Birmingham, and one of the Hall of Famers, really, if you go back. So those influences were very strong. I spent much of my time in the States in the summertime, just soaking up the culture. And then from there, straight into coaching, which I was always going to do. So my playing career was kind of short because I cut it short at 27, but I had a really good time, really competitive time in the game at that time, and was more than happy to call it a day when I did. Oh, it starts back at school. At my school, I had to, by the time I was 15 years old, I was responsible for working with the year 8s. I had no choice. David Burgess is like, right, in the gym, you were working with younger people. If you were an older guy in our school, your responsibility is to pass it down, and that's what I did. I took it from him. I did the national schools camp as a player. So I did Lee Green, which was at that time the national schools camp. At 19, I'm going to say I was one of the coaches on the England under 16 regional camp. So I'd always taught. For me, the coaching came after the teaching. So I'd always want to be in the gym, showing somebody how to improve X, Y, or Z. And then I spent the summers in the States again, so I worked all the top camps from Morgan Wooden's to Mather High School to Villanova's, Rolly Massimino's to 5-Star to you name it, Dr. J's camp. I'd done all those camps while I was playing. So I would not just go to the States and practice and work, but I literally would spend summers coaching. And probably the second biggest influence on that outside of David Burgess was a guy called Tom Galeazzi, who was at LIU in New York, Long Island University at the time. I ran into him as a 19-year-old in Hungary. I actually played, Chris, can you remember Laszlo Nemeth?
Yeah.
I played against Laszlo in Hungary. I reminded him
you
that.
You played against him as a player?
One of the teams that he played for. I was guesting with an Irish team. He recruited me to go to college, but I wasn't one for sitting in the classroom. I wanted to play, so I stayed and turned pro and stayed in the pros. But then I spent just about as many summers either in Harlem or up on Long Island at his university, just following around, listening to what he would do, how he would prepare the season, how he taught. So from 19, 20 years old, I was in that environment. I was around those coaches. I went to clinics with some of the greats in American colleges. And so the career, it was always the case I was going to coach in some way, shape or form.
Okay, so you mentioned camps and, running camps. I mean, for anybody who doesn't know, that's actually where we first met at Bradford University. I was a really young coach. I'd been coaching maybe about 2 or 3 seasons. We met in the sports center, and I don't know, we just had this connection, and we got talking, and you invited me to one of your run camps in Loughborough.
Ooh.
And I was, I remember thinking that I was really out of my depth. Like, I was going to come to this camp, but I didn't really know whether I could hang with the other coaches. But boy, those experiences, they made me as a coach. Like, I learned, you know, obviously I went there to coach kids, but I learned so much about coaching, about managing people, and I laughed more than I've ever laughed before in my entire life. Like,
as a player, like I said, I'd been in the States. I've done everything from Dr. J's camp to Syracuse camp. I'd done them all, and I looked at the way that the Americans used the summer to get players better. You know, in the season, it's all about winning and losing. But most of the development was done at camps in the summertime. Obviously, they have like a 3-month summer, you know, because it was about 6 weeks. But it was very much part of the culture that is, if you were a young teenager, you went to camp. And I saw stations and how they broke the skills down and how they taught them. And it was just one of those things that said to me, not only could I learn to teach myself, but also it was a great side hustle. Because remember, as a player back then, you did okay. And I've got to be fair, in my years in the Northeast, I was really well looked after. But there was no provision in the holidays for young players to learn and play. And basically, that's what made me do it. The love of teaching. I could see my own players getting better. But really, it was also the camaraderie you get between working with the coaches, and also you learn a lot when you're teaching, because you realize what I was doing as a player wasn't quite right, because I was teaching some of the things that I wasn't doing as a pro. And I'll be honest with you, I was like, wow, I don't do that. And that's how I got into it. And it stuck. It absolutely stuck.
Funnily enough, when I was doing some of the publicity for this week's show, one of the kids that I remember, I don't know if you remember a girl called Emma Pass.
Of course, yeah. Emma was a camp all-star. She never missed.
She was crazy.
Emma was like my prodigy. I mean, Chris, you know what's funny? This is how Emma was, farmer's girl. Emma's a proper country girl. And she was one of those athletes that just kept going. And she would come to camp for a week. And I knew she wanted to do a second week, but necessarily couldn't afford it. So I used to say to her, look, why don't you work a week as a counselor for next to nothing? You can play every night, and you can come on the next week for free. And I'm going to say, Chris, she did every single camp that I had at Run Press Run. She never missed. She had every single t-shirt. And you know how valuable those t-shirts are.
I do. Lynn still got one of those t-shirts.
Yeah.
Just even a couple of days, she actually sent me a message saying, oh my God, I can't believe I'm going to see Coach X. So, she
Emma, I love you to death wherever you are in the world, mate. Just so appreciate you. She's always going to be an all-star for us.
She's been all over the world as a result of basketball. So, big shout out to Emma.
Yeah, nobody more deserving, Chris. Nobody. Absolutely committed in every way. Got so much time for Emma Pass.
Yeah. You've kind of been in the game, so you talk about kind of coaching, and I know you coached, some pro-level basketball, and I remember you did a stint at Loughborough for a couple of years, or maybe it was longer than that. Then you were in Nottingham, and then it felt like you kind of disappeared off the face of the earth for a little while. And then the last time I saw you started telling me about what you were starting to build at Aston Manor. So did you have a hiatus? Did you fall off the edge of the earth for a while? What brought you back to coaching?
Well, a bit of everything, Chris. Being my personality is I'm an all or nothing type of coach, teacher. I assume that everybody wants to be back. Everybody wants to be absolutely at the races. So again, traveling Wilbury is what I've been, and anywhere I would go, anybody said, listen, come and do a session here, I'm one of those that will find myself there, just because I want to be on the floor, working out kids and working out anybody that will come. So over the years, there's been a couple of gaps. There was a gap before I went to Loughborough, and then obviously the Loughborough University days, I coached at Bolton and Bury, I coached at, you just name it, many National League teams. We won championships at Doncaster. As you know, we had the situation where I came back to Nottingham. That didn't work out. And then I spent a lot of years just literally just working out individuals. You know, so if there was a guy, I mean, I spent some time in the summers, if there was a guy in a gym somewhere and wanted to work out and work on his game, I'd do that. I mean, I was at Nottingham Trent for 2-3 years. I didn't play, not coaching, I'm in the team, but just use it as a base to work people out that wanted to get better. And I coached at Mansfield for a year. But what I realized is that, and it was really strange, because in those hiatus years, you realize you had time to think, look, exactly where it is that I want to be teaching or coaching. And I realized there are very few opportunities to teach. You don't really get much chance to teach at the National League men or women, or even the National League juniors. You know, 2 nights a week, 6 balls and 10 guys, there's no teaching, or very little. You know, you're teaching by walking around. I admire those people because that's more coaching, preparing to win. And I realized what I really wanted to do is prepare the athlete to get better, to be good enough to be able to win. In other words, teach. So I went off to South Nottingham College. I spent some years there, had great years there, had some really good successes with Nottingham kids from all over. And that's where I sort of spent the time to think, well, the next time I coach, I'd want to coach in an environment where fundamentally I had control of the environment and the intangibles. That doesn't happen in the UK.